Everyone, this is Mike again, and we're going to take a look at the other selection tool called the Lasso Tools today in this video. And the Lasso Tools are probably the universal way to select because it allows you to trace around irregular shapes. Usually you can try using the magic wand as we saw before, working with a rectangle marquee, but a lot of times you're going to still have to go in, use the Lasso tool, and trace around a selection to get the preciseness that you need. Depends on what you're, again, depends on what type of image that you're trying to select and all that good stuff. Because I would try using the other tools first because they're a lot easier, but eventually most people will come back and start using the lasso tool. Our lasso tool is our third tool up here in our toolbox, and we have a variety of lasso tools. We have the regular one that just allows you to trace around. We have the polygonal, which allows us to go in and select based on straight edges. Like if you're going to select a star, you click to create a straight line, and it actually goes in and does a great job. And then the magnetic lasso tool, which we'll see in a little bit, which automatically connects, looks at the background, looks at the object, and it basically attaches itself to the object. So I'm going to use the regular lasso tool here, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit on the caret down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to take the lasso tool and I'm going to trace around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, there's a little curly tip at the bottom. If you press your caps lock key on your keyboard, it'll take it to a crosshair, and that sometimes is a lot easier to go in and trace. And just remember to turn it off, press the caps lock key. Caps lock key is on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to trace around. And if you don't get exactly, don't worry, because what you can do is you can come back in and readjust afterwards. And that's what's going to happen. I always tell my students is that when you're going to go in and select an item, don't try to get exact on the first go around. Because using the lasso tool, it is a tricky little tool, and sometimes you can make a mistake. Once you come back around, it puts the marching ants in. But I can see that there's some areas that we need to fine tune. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in. And I see I didn't go right to the edge. And sometimes I don't want to go right to the edge because I don't want part of the background to come through. But up here at the top, I see I went out into the background. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lasso tool again, and I'm going to be subtracting that selection area, so that doesn't include that background. And what I'm going to do here, you can do a couple different things. You can come up and use your options bar, and you have on your options bar at the top, you have add selection, which is the second button in, and subtract. If you would like to use shortcut keys, if you hold down your shift key, it will add, and if you hold down your alt or option key, if you're on the Mac, it will subtract. So I'm going to subtract. I'm going to click on the subtract button. And what I'm going to do is I'm just basically going to come down and subtract that from the selection. And typically you're going to find yourself you want to do a circular motion. So you start, you come out, and you come back around. Come out and come back around. And what you do is you come back, you go around, and you basically clean up your selection. And here I'm coming back around. So I'm trying to get closer to the caret. Here I notice I didn't get all the caret, so I'm going to switch back to the add. On my options bar, I'm just going to come up, and I'm just going to add that to the selected area. And here I'm going to use my space bar. When I hold down my space bar, I can use the scrolling option and just drag to the left, and that moves everything to the left. And I have other things I can add. And I see I have some things to subtract down here, so I'll switch to the subtract option. I'll start outside the selection, come back around. Then here down here at the bottom, a lot of things I need to add. So again, you're going to notice how I'm going back and forth. That's why sometimes the shortcut key is a lot easier to work with. So holding down the Shift key allows you to add, and holding down your Alt or Option key allows you to subtract. Okay, pull this over just a second. And then what you do is you just basically go around, clean it up. There's still some things I need to clean up on this, but based on time for this video, I'm not going to go back in and clean out some of the edges. But you have the idea of what you do with adding, subtracting. So I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to take my caret, I'm going to move it up here in our little design. Now, I just don't like it going horizontal, so I'm going to rotate it. So remember, we have our free transform tools. So we're going to go up to Edit, Free Transform. This allows us to scale it, allows us to rotate, allows us to do a variety of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right outside the selected area, and these resizing handles allow me to go in and resize. So I'm going to come outside the little resizing handle, and that will change your mouse to 2 corner points. And you just want to hold down your mouse and rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. When you release, you're going to press your Enter key to accept the transformation, and you can still move it into your location that you want. I'm going to deselect. Remember, if you deselect, it's going to become part of the background because we're not working with layers. And there you go. Now let's use the lasso tool over here with the pepper, but I'm going to use the magnetic lasso tool. And the key to the magnetic lasso tool, as I zoom in on this, is that it works great when you're selecting an object and the background has a different contrast than the object that you're selecting. So if it's a little bit different than the background, that's going to make it easier to use the magnetic lasso tool. But if it's like a leaf within a jungle, it's going to be a little harder because it's all the same colors. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the magnetic lasso tool. I'm going to click to get it started. Now if you don't have the caps lock key on, it will look like a little magnet on it. I'm going to turn on the caps lock key because I like it, because I get to see the target, and that little middle piece, that's where I'm moving my mouse. So I click to get it started, and then all I do here is I just trace around the pepper, and it puts in these little points to kind of connect to the pepper. And really all it's doing here is it's looking at the contrast of the background and the pepper itself and saying, hey, I think I know what you need to do. Now, are you going to have to go in and fine tune some of the selection? Yes. You still have to look at it to see if it got precise, because there's some areas that it doesn't know. Now, as you get down to a certain area, you can also click to connect to the pepper, so that way if you think the contrast is very similar, you can just click with your mouse and it puts a little point in, and it anchors it to that pepper. Now when you get to the beginning, you click on the beginning and it'll automatically put the marching ants in. If you screw up, press escape, and that will allow you to start back over. Now I would zoom in and I would scroll around and see if there's areas that need to be helped. Like here in this little corner, I can see that there's a little gray from the background. So I'm going to switch to the lasso tool. I don't want to use the magnetic lasso tool to help refine my selection. I'm going to use the regular lasso tool. And I'm going to subtract that. I'm going to hold down my Alt key that I was talking about earlier, Option key on the Mac. I'm using the space bar to scroll up, and I see a little gray down here, a little gray over here below the stem. And what I do is I just scroll around, and just holding down your space bar, it allows you to scroll around using your mouse, and then you can see how close it got. It did a pretty good job. So I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to take my move tool now, and I'm going to move it over here into the little collage that we're creating. I'm going to deselect. I'm going to do a Control D as in David. Again, if you're on a Macintosh, it's going to be Command plus D. Now I got all my images together, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to basically crop this area because I don't want to see everything on the right hand side where the pepper came from. I don't want to see where the carrot came from. So I'm going to crop that area out. So I'm going to take my crop tool, which is kind of like a selection tool. It's the fourth tool down. I'm sorry, the fifth tool down. And what you do is you start and hold down your mouse at the top and you drag down to the right. Now, everything outside, when you release, everything outside becomes gray. That means it's going to be deleted. Anything inside is what's going to maintain. So that selected area that you have is going to be maintained. Then all you have to do here is press your return key or enter key. Then as you see here, all that extra space has now been deleted. And now you're just focusing in on the collage area that you have with all the veggies and so forth. So that's how you use the lasso tool, and thrown in at the end a little crop tool action. So hopefully you learn a little bit about working with selections here, and we'll continue on with other videos.